Hello and welcome to our PBIS training for Highland Elementary. We hope that by the end of this presentation you are familiar with what PBIS is, why we implement it, and understand how you can play a role in it. Our agenda for today includes an overview of PBIS, discussing the matrix, cool tools, and acknowledgement. Then we will define staff-managed behaviors versus office-managed behaviors, as well as provide examples. And finally, we will give you information on PBIS rotations to teach your students in the beginning of the year. So let's get started. PBIS originated in Eugene, Oregon. In 1994, Rob Horner, George Sugai, and Ann Todd, professors at the University of Oregon, focused on research to guide effective practices for behavior management. Their original focus was Fern Ridge Middle School in Eugene that had a student population of 880, with 5,100 office referrals in 1 year. This began the National Center for PBIS, which uses this research-based system. It has grown and now includes 4 countries, over 40 states, and at least 10,000 schools. Now, some of you may be familiar with PBIS, but for those of you who are not, PBIS is a proactive and interactive approach to establish a social culture in a school that supports social, emotional, and academic success. It uses data-based decision-making to align curriculum and behavioral supports for students and staff. It is aimed at supporting safe and effective school environments while preventing behavior problems with students. PBIS uses the RTI model as a continuum of effective behavior support. There are 3 tiers as you can see on the screen: universal, secondary, and tertiary. PBIS at the universal level is the primary prevention for problem behaviors. This means that behavior expectations are taught, modeled, acknowledged, monitored, and then retaught as necessary with the goal of providing practice and reinforcement for all students. When this is done, about 80 to 90% of the student population responds. PBIS at the secondary level is a secondary prevention for problem behaviors. Specialized group interventions are given to support these students at risk. It has high efficiency and students respond rapidly. Some individualizing is also given. When students with chronic or intense problem behavior are in need of even more support, we take this intervention to the tertiary level, where intensive durable procedures are used to support individual students. So why is Highland implementing PBIS? There are many reasons for this. 1, it provides a safe and positive learning environment for students, teachers, and staff here at Highland. Also, by having a school-wide behavioral system, there is consistency, which benefits not only students, but teachers and staff as well. Additionally, it is important to remember that the RTI model has a behavioral side. By combining PBIS with RTI, we are providing effective instructional strategies for both academic and behavior systems. Finally, we implement PBIS in order to reduce behavior problems that interfere with student learning. A few important things to keep in mind. It takes about 3 to 5 years for PBIS to change behavior, as long as it is being implemented with fidelity. Also, keep in mind that behavior skills are learned. It has become necessary to teach expected behaviors explicitly, just as we would teach academic skills. Don't assume students already know. Our focus this year is primary prevention in a school and classroom-wide setting, which I will explain more in the next few slides. Highland Elementary's expectations are presented as a Highland High Five, which is be safe, be respectful, be responsible, be caring, be here and ready. Students recite it every morning during the morning announcements. These are the 5 expectations we have set for our students to meet or exceed school-wide and classroom-wide. The 5 expectations, or the Highland High Five, can be applied to different school settings. In your folder, you will find a handout with a table. This is the behavior matrix. We have created this matrix to provide clear definitions of expected behaviors. You'll notice that the majority of the behaviors are stated positively to tell what the students should be doing instead of what they should not be doing. This is an example of what the Highland High Five looks like on the playground. An example of being safe on the playground is staying within the playground boundaries. As previously mentioned, we avoided saying, "Don't go on the street," and instead used positive language for students to know what they should do. This brings us into talking about Cool Tools. Cool Tools are research-based lesson plans used to teach the school's behavior expectations. They teach all the students what is expected of them and what that looks like. Throughout the school year, new lessons should be taught to all students. Selection, creation, and priority for which lessons are taught are based on our school's data. There are 2 steps in order to implement a Cool Tool. The first step is to select the skill to be taught. Each month, the PBIS Universal team looks at data from the previous month. The team looks at behaviors for which students are getting the most referrals. The team then selects a skill from the behavioral matrix that should be re-taught to students. Finally, a lesson is either created or downloaded from many that have been shared online by other PBIS teams around the world. Step 2 is teaching the lesson plan. The Cool Tool has 4 parts. The first is to name the skill and align it to the behavior matrix. The second part is to introduce the rule. Then the rule is demonstrated or modeled. And finally, it is important to provide acknowledgement whenever students exhibit this behavior. It is important to acknowledge students for their positive behavior. Not only does it reinforce the teaching of new behaviors, but it encourages the behaviors that we want to occur again in the future. This form of acknowledgement is randomly given to all students by teachers, staff, and administration. As you can see on the screen, there are many ways to provide acknowledgement to students for positive behavior. You can provide praise, have a Student of the Month wall, have quarterly reward parties, or reward students with Highland high fives. High fives work like school money. They can be used to purchase items at the monthly school store, or they can be entered into the raffle bins each month as well. At Highland, referrals are given to students who do not follow the Highland high five expectations. In order to remain consistent, it is important for teachers and staff to agree on what is dealt with in the classroom or the office. We have developed a T-chart to address this, which you'll see on the next slide. This T-chart separates staff-managed behavior from office-managed behavior. Behaviors above the line are similar behaviors that may move from being dealt with in the classroom to requiring office intervention. For example, if a student steals money from another student, this would be dealt with by the teacher. However, if a student steals something of value, like a teacher's phone, this would be dealt with in the office. If you notice the behaviors that appear below the line, these do not correspond from the left column to the right. Finally, the last thing to address is the PBIS rotations. During the first 2 weeks of school, it is important to teach expected school behaviors. Please refer to the matrix and take your students to the different locations that appear on it. Discuss what each part of the Highland High Five looks like at each location. A form will later be sent out for you to confirm your completion. See a PBIS member or your principal for more information.